welcome back to Mornings Don't Have to Suck, your go-to AM motivation and mindset podcast to start your day without the dread. In the short time we have together, you might just learn something new about yourself and how you can approach your day from a new and clever perspective. My name is Kaylin, founder of Live Your Clever Life Coaching, and I am your host. We will jump right into it today. Per usual, we don't waste much time around here. And today we are going to be talking about a topic that a lot of us are familiar with, whether we like it or not, whether it's in your relationships, your work. We're going to kind of talk through the different areas that it affects, but we are going to talk about pressure today. And what I mean by that is obviously not like physical pressure, like not two things pushing together, but the different pressures that we find weighing on our chest, tightening in our jaw, tightening in our shoulders, all of that and how it manifests. And we'll talk through some ways to deal with it. So we are going to start working our way through the different pressures that we encounter. Some of these will probably resonate with you. So please, as usual, if you hear something that resonates, write it down. If you know somebody else might benefit from it, please send it to them. And we will start with the simple pressures of life, right? The pressures you get from people, from your family, from your friends, from the people who aren't your friends but try to convince you that they're your friends, your people you're in relationships with. On top of that, outside of just interpersonal relationships, work, because you get both the interpersonal but also the pressure of the corporate ladder, if you are in a corporate job, of course. If you're not and you're in the service industry, there's a whole nother layer of pressure that comes along with that. But I think we all kind of understand the different pressures that come with work and having to work so that you can keep a roof over your head and be able to eat and feed your children if you have them and take care of your pets if you have them. So there's a lot of different pressures, right? On top of that, in society, we love societal pressures. Don't we? Whether you like it or not, and whether you want to admit it or not, we are all under constant pressure from society to fit in a box, to look a certain way, to be smaller, to be larger, to have shorter hair, to have longer hair, to have better eyebrows, whatever it may be. Constant pressure, right? And then the last two that are not the funnest, but politics. Sorry about it. We are surrounded by it right now. So avoiding it is essentially not an option, nor should you ever want to do that. But that is a big pressure that we are all dealing with right now, and how to get up every day and keep moving forward and still want to put the effort in towards the things that are supposed to better our life while the chaos is happening around us. And then lastly, the pressure we put on ourselves. The last one, whether we like it or not, might be the most powerful. And it's because, yes, the external pressures are there, but you don't always have to internalize them, and you don't always have to accept them as how you feel. But as many of us have encountered and experienced, that's not always a choice that we have at first. And sometimes when you're under so much pressure, that's all you see, right? So thinking about how that is manifesting in your life right now, whether it's at work, whether you're dealing with issues with your friends, in a relationship, trying to stay sane with politics, start to think about this as we talk through this today, because you might be able to take something away that will help you. And on top of that, I want to bring attention to things that we are probably aware of unconsciously, but we might not be giving the time of day. But if we did, it might help us a little bit more to take that pressure and a little bit of that stress off of us. So one thing I do want to point out is that one thing that is blaring with this type of issue, right, around pressure and around stress, is that it manifests physically. And when it starts to do that, it's already a little bit too late. So we know we need to start acting, because your body will make you rest if you don't. So ways it can manifest, and ways I've had it manifest: headaches. We love a stress headache. No, we do not. No, we do not. Headaches, muscle tightness, like I was saying, shoulders, jaw. We hold a lot of our stress in those areas. You hold it in your feet too. So things to think about. Let's see. Other ways: fatigue, exhaustion, You might not be able to sleep at night. On the other side, you might suffer with insomnia a little bit because you're like, wow, I have so many things I need to do. And how can I sleep when I have so many things to do? But I'm also so exhausted. So how am I supposed to survive? You might have noticeable heartbeat changes. I don't know if you've ever had to get up and give a presentation in front of people, but if you're not used to it, your heartbeat kind of raises. That becomes normal when you're constantly putting yourself under stress. Shallow breathing, or holding your breath. Some people do that because it's a form of control in your brain when really you're just depleting your brain and your body of oxygen. There are so many things that can manifest physically when you're under pressure, especially when it's self-pressure. And then on top of that, it makes you, unfortunately, whether you like it or not, makes you more reactive. So I don't know if you have an example, I'm sure you do, but when you've been stressed and your pet knocks something over and you yell at them, they're a pet, they're probably going to knock something over. You're stressed and your partner is trying to do something kind for you and they ask you a question and you didn't answer them because you're distracted, and they ask you again and you get mad because they asked you and they interrupted your thought. Have you yelled at your kid when you get home because you're stressed and they wanted to show you something? There is a myriad of examples I could provide, but this is not a life that I want to experience. And I'm sure that each and every one of you listening to this has had moments where that has happened and it's felt out of your control, but it's only felt out of your control because you're letting the pressure dictate your actions rather than letting the pressure be the pressure and you filter what is necessary to reach you. So let's talk about how to manage it. Very important. There are strategies out there that can help you more than just me telling you what I do in my brain, though I hope that's helpful. But one way to do it is to organize yourself. You know yourself the best. And I'll tell you, the word organized used to scare me because I thought I was the complete opposite of organized, but it's really just understanding where you thrive, how you thrive, and setting your environment up, your space, your headspace up to be able to do that. So think about that. If you're forgetful, for instance, make a to-do list. Make a list you need to physically check things off of so that you know that you're getting those done. Other options, or other examples, I should say, set alarms or set reminders so you make sure that you're holding yourself accountable. If you have a large task and that's too much for you, break it down into smaller digestible tasks so that you can do it. And so it's not this giant mountain, but it's actually things that you can process. Making our lives more digestible can change them. And I think a lot of us give that power away without realizing it because of pressure and because of XYZ that we have to finish by XYZ date, right? So things I want you to think about as you go through your day today and the rest of your week. Another way to do this is to be mindful. We're being mindful in 2025. Okay. So we're going to practice that consistent mindfulness, whether it's meditating, if that's for you. There are meditation and yoga class combos, which I love and I highly recommend. Breath work, if you're familiar with it, and just being connected with what oxygen can do for your body and what slow, concentrated, focused breathing, where your brain is just existing. That can do so much for your stress and the pressure that we're putting ourselves under. And then most importantly, rest. We don't rest enough. You don't rest enough. I'm going to tell you right now, you do not rest enough. Even if you get a lot of sleep, rest is not just in the form of sleep, right? So my recommendation to you, schedule your breaks. If you work a very busy work schedule, and let's say you sit at a desk all day, schedule a 30-minute break in the morning and 30-minute afternoon break where you go on a walk. That will change your life. And I am not kidding. It makes such a difference when you start to prioritize the action that fixes more than just the symptom, but it fixes the deep issue. And releasing the pressure and the stress through physical movement can help you do that. Another way as well, outside of that, let's talk about saying no, and let's talk about setting boundaries. And I know some people go, ooh, or alarm bells goes off when that happens. But those are what keep you on track. Those are what keep you safe, and those are what keep you sane. So if you are saying yes to everything, you will not have time to do the things you need to do. You will not have time to rest. You will not have time to schedule your breaks and go on active rest walks. You will not have time to do those things. So you have to make sure you're saying no when you need to say no. And if it doesn't align with your goals, if it doesn't align with what you want to do that day, it's okay to say no. It is. And then setting boundaries, whether it's at work, very important. Not enough people set boundaries at work, to a detriment. We'll talk about that a lot more later on another episode, because I think that'll have to be a whole episode in itself, deeper dive. But also setting boundaries in friendships and in relationships, especially if people are taking advantage of your time, or if they are not fully understanding what it takes to be in adult friendships, because I know that that's a common thing that a lot of people around me are going through right now. So things to think about. And then lastly, on top of saying no, on top of setting boundaries, on top of being mindful, is when you are at your wit's end, or if you're there already, or if you're starting to reach the point of burnout, you must ask for help. Be okay asking for help. Be okay delegating things, especially at work. There's always somebody else that can be there to help you. At home, if you have a partner, if you have a family, there are things you can delegate. There are things we can share. You are not a superhero. You're not expected to be one. So please stop putting the pressure on yourself to be a superhero, because the more you do that, the less space you give yourself to be yourself, and your people are there to lean on. So make sure you're doing it. Last little topic of today, and we'll kind of cover it in little sections at a time. We'll talk about reframing the certain pressures that we feel as an opportunity for growth, or an opportunity to, maybe I can change how I'm approaching this so that I'm not angry all the time, right? We've all been that way, where you're having that one of those days where you wake up in a bad mood, then your coffee spills, and then you knock over a glass of water, then your belt loop gets stuck on a doorknob, and it's just thing over thing, and you just want to, end it all for everyone just to make it easy. What we need to do is reframe that and approach it from a place of, let's find a solution for how I can feel better right now, and to make later me feel fine, because I don't have to really fester in this bad day, or in this moment of pressure, or whatever it may be. So one way to do that is to view the pressures that you feel as a challenge rather than a threat, rather than something you must dread, right? It's an opportunity for you to adjust, to pivot, to dance around the thing that's in your way a little bit differently. And it's an opportunity for you to grow. And I think the people that you know, that you look up to, that you envy, that have those successful businesses, that have those successful bank accounts, whatever, they do this. They let the pressures that they go through make them into something bigger and stronger and better, and reinforcing their resilience. One way, okay? Start thinking about that. Another way, pressure often comes, at least in certain scenarios, from the moments where you are growing. So don't forget that. Celebrating your small wins along the way. So every time you achieve one of those, or every time you make it through one of those things, you must acknowledge it. And I talk about this all the time in my classes, in this podcast. I'm sure I've already talked about it, on Instagram, wherever I can. In my coaching, I talk about, you have to celebrate your small wins, and you have to acknowledge them, because if you don't, that's no fun. We are humans. We like to have fun. We like to have emotion tied with our experiences, and making sure the struggle is paired with the celebration. It rounds out that cycle for us. So make sure that you are doing that, because it also helps reduce the weight of the things that you put on yourselves when you're able to celebrate it. And then using pressure as a motivator. I do this a little bit. And if you're watching on YouTube, you saw my face very quickly change. I am one of those people who, if you tell me that I cannot do something, or that, oh, she'll never be able to do that, or, oh, yeah, whatever. You want to know what my response is? Watch me. Okay, challenge accepted, rude, number one. And two, get ready to be wrong. I think it's a little sister thing, because I was constantly told, you're too small. No, challenge accepted. Use it as a motivator, because when you are motivated by a place of doubt in someone else's mind about you, and you use that as It gives you something to put pressure back on when you start to doubt yourselves in the moments that you're tired. I bring this up all the time in my spin classes. If we play a song that's a little more like, or a little more like breakup-y or whatever it is, I go, put this, if you have someone in your head that made you feel this way, put it on your legs, whether it's in the gear or whether it's the focus. If you put that and you focus it somewhere, you're going to notice a lot more speed. You're going to notice a lot more oomph coming behind it because you're letting the thought and the emotion power the feeling and the effort rather than letting it like rule all of your decisions, if that makes sense. So another thing to think about. And then lastly, because I've been blabbing and yapping today, is reflecting and learning on your overall experience and what truly happens at the end of it when you're under those, or when you're in those high pressure situations. So sitting down, addressing how you handle it, reviewing how you handle it. Oftentimes you'll surprise yourself, but it also just gives you a moment to go, you know what? I handled this great. I handled that not so great. Next time it's going to be different. And I think allowing yourself that grace and flexibility will go a long way. So as you head through your day today, through the rest of your week, into the weekend, whenever you are listening to this, please be mindful of the pressure around you, of the pressure inside of you, and how you can combat that in live time so you can experience life with a little bit more happiness, a little bit more joy, a little bit more calm, a little bit more existence without the bad stuff. Because there's plenty of bad stuff around us and we just don't need it. So, as usual, love yourself, be kind, love the people around you, give some light today, and we'll see you back here soon. So let's talk about some of those. Oh my goodness.